And surely God understands why I was scared. I was insecure. I loved money, and what fool, what idiot, what liar, what phony doesn't get that? I mean, come on, God. So, that's it. We're going to stand before God with our belief system, with our BS, and give account. We're all going to. That's it. You don't own yourself. You didn't create yourself. Your parents didn't create you. And all these people that, oh, it's okay that so and so inherited all this wealth. Their parents left it to them. That's fine. That's cool. That's great. But they'd be opposed to being born rich because you got your shares, your cut in the earth resources, your cut of the agricultural land, your cut of the fishing, your cut of the timber, your cut of the oil, your cut of the gold, silver, and on and on and on and on and on and on in that theme. So you see the stupidity, the absurdity of any need for money. They don't want you to think that you could ever imagine that world. They want you to think I'm some kind of idealistic, pipe smoking, radical nut. That's what they want you to think about a guy like me. Is that what you really, it's true. I want the best for people. I figured out that this thing called happiness is something we don't go alone. Nice in theory, sort of like a man being alone. Nice in theory, but we're a live wire. Guys are not grounded. To use an electrical example, we're not. It's like, we've heard that for women, a woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle, right? Who really needs it, right? But we know that's not true about men. It's the natural order. We're actually very needy, okay? And we're just not right. I've never known a man that was right and single. It just, like I said, nice in theory, but it doesn't work that way. You're not going to ever find contentment and happiness. And I know I'm never going to find contentment and happiness in this world. Well, another fellow human being, likely, perhaps, a better man or woman than me, and I'm going to sit on my laurels and do nothing and not even speaking out in their behalf, you understand? Then I'll have to answer for that. So it's not only the sins we commit, okay, that we'll give account for and answer for, this stuff we didn't do, that we should have been doing. That's every bit as potent, every bit as powerful and important, that we had an opportunity to do this little window of time to do it before it slams shut on our little winkies. I mean, so friends, I'm on my enemy's side, just like Jesus was. I want the best for them, but for God's sake, man, I want to be free. I want to see this thing turn, man. I want to see the wound on the collective body of humanity. I want to see it bound where it's hemorrhaging, and that is on these people that are destitute to the point of homelessness, not criminals, not criminals. Do you understand? But the criminals. Now, we'll reward you, society says, in all our wisdom. It's like the capital punishment. It's like, well, we're totally opposed to premeditated first-degree murder, but yet, in all our wisdom, as a civilized society, we think that we should kill these people that have killed other people. Eye for an eye and all that. It's a lot of vengeance. Yeah, it's fair. Punishment. Retribution. Yeah. You understand? But it's so hypocritical. It's glaringly so. You got to admit at least that it is saying, yeah, it's perfectly fine to kill somebody with malice, a forethought, with premeditation. In other words, you thought it out really well. I like that for all these crimes. I mean, look at the murder out there. What's wrong with murder? It should be fine. I mean, people murder every day and it's justified. Even the law says it's first degree murder is okay with the capital punishment. So people try to make sense out of this world and they can't because it's run by madmen. All the laws of men, all the nuanced laws, rules, and regulations out there, but no rule about the golden rule. But all these people in jail, safely ensconced behind bars, rapists and murderers and child molesters and every other kind of criminal you can imagine, is behind bars, and we, the taxpayers, have to pay about $100,000 a year here in California to keep one inmate in jail for 1 year. 3 hots and a cot, free rent, free utilities, free medical, help reintegrating into society later. And that's what we're willing to pay them. And it has to be humane because they got the ACL in there, ACLU in there, making sure it's nice and humane. You don't want to mistreat these these inmates, which I think is good, right? Personally, but if if you're just a docile, passive, dirt poor person, then no soup for you. You gotta get jaded, hardened. You gotta go out and commit a crime. You say you're desperate. You say you're destitute. You say you're homeless and needy and need help sorely, but prove it. Commit a crime. I mean, can you the incentive behind criminality in this country? And don't we see it? I mean, how come everybody else doesn't see these things I'm seeing so clearly? It's like, oh my God, it'd be so much cheaper. So I mean, the nuts and bolts and the math and logic and crap are on my side to say, hey, if you just ended desperate poverty, you could virtually end all crime, and then you'd have what? A kinder, safer, gentler society, and be paying less for it. Does that make sense? I mean, should we do that? Yeah. I mean, what would God do? But are we? You see the trouble we're in, how this thing's got legs, it's got momentum. We're going down the wrong path, and these evil men will keep dragging us as far as we allow them to until we object loudly and vociferously. I don't care if I lose everything I've got materialistically and my whole life even, but I'm going to fight for others because I'm trying to redeem myself. I got to make an amends. This is something else they teach in these 12-step programs, making an amends. They teach you about stinking thinking, which we all can do, and we've got to reject it and say, no, God, please get it out of my head. I don't want to be that person. Okay? But making an amends. That's it. That's atonement for our sin, for what we didn't do, what we should have been doing all along. God help us. It's the only way we're going to see relief. So if you see things getting better and the litmus test is in your local community, are they doing stuff, concrete, tangible stuff to permanently end homelessness? That means the finger of God is at work, literally. The return of Christ is probably nigh. All this UFO stuff, it says it'll be just like in the days of Noah. Look at what it was like. Look up the Nephilim. So I don't think they're the holy angels, but I do believe God has holy angels. These UFOs that they're admitting to, I think these are counterfeiters, demons and crap like that. This is a fallen one. This is that same one that was in the Garden of Eden tempting us, that we fell to, that we were tricked and deceived by, where everything organically bad came from. Thank God God didn't give up on his amazing grace, went into action, and he gave us Jesus Christ, but that's the last straw, final propitiation. If you're ashamed of Christ, it says he'll be ashamed of you when he returns with his multitude of holy angels. Power, oh my God, he's going to mete out justice. The evil men are going to ask the mountains to cover them. And then you learn of all these underground cities they have built for the continuation of government, right? The COG or something. Governance, whatever. I think it's something like that, right? And you tie it together with scripture and you go, oh my God, this is a real history book, but it's just telling the future. The good guys are going to prevail. The good guys are going to win. So which side do you want to be on? Don't let that be your motivation because you want to be a winner. Be your motivation to save souls, to do God's work, pull people from the fires of hell that are ripping. They don't even know. They're oblivious to the fact that they're full-blown deceived, man. You got to try to save those people. Even if it makes you look like a fool, even if they project on you, you're a big phony. You've got an ulterior motive. You see, you've still got to do it. You can't shrink away from the responsibility you have from being created a little lower than the angels, as it's written. We do have big shoes to fill, a big responsibility. And we've got some explaining to do if we don't step up to the plate. Because then we're cowards. We're afraid, well, I was afraid of losing my stuff or my money or my life. And that's why. God, surely you understand God, mercy, pity. Be on record at least, friends. Speak it loud and proud and clear. I don't like that word proud, pride. I really don't. There's other words to supplant it, like just gladly. Just say, thank God he gave me a voice to speak for the truth in my heart that I want to share because I really do want the best for everybody. because I understand that I can't be happy until nobody on the face of this earth is suffering needlessly, unnecessarily, by invention, artificially. You see, to distinguish that form of suffering from the organic one we can't change. Because we can change unnatural suffering that's being imposed on us by evil men. Slavery, that's it. They normalized slavery. Again, back to the Federal Labor Department. How could they have prevented the debasement of our currency? Because if one year they came out, they realized, hey, look, these people have been manipulating markets in this industry or that, and this is their motivation, to do profit, because they're buying it all up. Just like it doesn't matter if it's one investor or a billion investors that bought up all the diamonds. You understand? Their interests are the same. So if they could buy up all the diamonds, okay, and then store them and regulate them on their terms, they could charge whatever they want. They could say, oh, this is a super precious, rare stone. And, you know, you're a big shot if you can afford one of these things. But you're going to pay through those. It's going to be a lot of weeks' work for the average man. You see how this works? And that's an unnecessary, that's a luxury item. A nicety. Nobody even needs it. But can you imagine whether it's one investor or a billion investors that gets into real estate, housing in particular? You see what I'm saying here? You get my drift? And they manipulate markets. So the Federal Labor Department would step in, okay, and they would say, whoa, this is dangerous. I'm responsible to maintain sound economic policies, a sound dollar, and look after the interests of these federal minimum wage workers. It's my responsibility. These regular, everyday people, often uneducated, little education, often doing jobs that require little skill, but I have a duty to them, a fiduciary duty, a business duty, a duty to my nation, my Constitution, to justice for all, to stand up in their behalf and come out every year. Every year they had to do this press release, have a press meeting, and say, unfortunately, the cost of living went up. And then they point to the causers, this group. They say, look, all these people are invested. So it's not a monopoly owned by one person or a tiny group of individuals. No, this is much more foreboding. This is a giant group of individuals colluding together to manipulate your housing costs. To what avail? Well, obviously, for profit. So this is the justification for raising wages dramatically, because it's just to compensate, okay, commensurately, proportionately, equivalently with what they did to the cost of living by driving it up. At that point, that would have been where the rubber met the road. The employers would bitch and moan and said, no, we hate this. By law, I mean, I could go to jail for not paying my workers this federal minimum wage that you just increased dramatically from $1 to $1.50. No way, man. So that's, you understand, that would have been the check and balance time. That was, okay, gotcha, stalemate, right? In chess. Nobody could do nothing anymore. But then they'd call that stagflation, right? Any form of stability. Yet we, the people, want stability. We want to know what tomorrow brings. Do you understand how it would have stopped runaway inflation in its tracks and currency debasement? Because it wouldn't have made any sense. And then people would have blamed those that are causing the problem. They would say, no, I hate your industry. I'm not going to support it. No, you're manipulating markets. You're fixing prices. You're regulating it on your perverted terms. You're not living by the golden rule. You're not treating your tenants or those you sell to the way you would your own children. You understand? So it's ungodly. That's ungodliness has taken over my nation, my beloved nation. Yes, I'm patriotic. I love America. I feel lucky to have born here. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment, all these things I cherish. And I hope you do too and understand them. Third Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. We need these things. There's a rhyme and a reason for them. And there was a rhyme and a reason for the Federal Labor Department to come out every year and explain why we've got to raise the federal minimum wage to keep America cohesive, to keep the cost of living down, to keep people from having incentive to manipulate markets. Because if we don't come out, if somebody's been manipulating the cost of living and give the federal minimum wage workers a commensurate cost of living adjustment, then for all mathematical intents and purposes, we just gave